Well, I'm sure it's a bit hard to get everyone's attention after that. And I was pleased to see everyone was well directed by Catherine. So I'm Vicki Anderson. I have the privilege of leading the clinical sciences theme. And what I'm going to talk to you about, it really fits nicely after we've heard from Sharon about what Murdoch does in the community. And we've just heard from Andrew and his team about what happens globally. Well, clinical sciences is much more at home, so on the Melbourne Children's Campus. And you maybe change the... And the overall goal of what we do is to solve clinical problems to improve outcomes for sick kids. So very much the problems arise in the clinical context. Many of the researchers within clinical sciences are clinician researchers, and many of our participants come from the hospital. But I think to just say that our impact is within the hospital is not at all correct. And in fact, as often happens, at home, many of our researchers are much less recognised and their work much less known than it is internationally. And I'd just like to highlight the people that work within, the senior leaders within the clinical sciences theme. So we have 16 groups, just one newly minted. And these are our group leaders and our team leaders. And you'll see from the labels up there of all of the groups that it is a pretty broad church. It's a pretty broad church in terms of what we do and what we focus on, but also who we are. Clinicians, but also allied health, engineers, psychologists, and so on. And we work together. One of the key things about clinical sciences, as you've heard from the other themes, is working together is absolutely critical as we move into the future of clinical research. And there's some motherhood statements here. We're interested in doing very high quality research that is innovative, that's going to change clinical practice. The challenges that we really the challenges that we experience are fairly significant in that we have to cover a wide range of skill sets. So in the olden days, when I started in research, we just had an idea. We created a research question, we worked on our own little computer, and we wrote a paper. No longer can we do that. We need to be able to translate to make impact and improve kids' lives. But before I go on to talk specifically about research, I really wanted to highlight one of the key factors that I think Catherine made when she did her introduction, and that's that people are so important. Our people are so incredibly important. And in the clinical world, one of our major tasks is to engage and energise clinicians who are going to be our future leaders. You've already heard from some of those today. So that's a really important element of what we do. But our framework is very much the health system. And the health system is an ever-changing landscape. And currently, it has a lot of problems, as we all know, if we work as clinicians. So thinking of the challenges for us as researchers, the current healthcare centre is pretty much unsustainable in terms of the way we deliver healthcare. And we know that from the huge deficit that the Children's Hospital currently has. We also know if we're trying to get a patient to go through our various clinics that it's very fragmented. It also it suffers from inequity and the capacity of all families to be able to access and experience good healthcare is very limited. So when we think about this from a research perspective, I see two key areas that we need to work on to be able to fit our research and its impact into the future health system. And I'm going to talk about two of these. The first is the area of precision medicine and prediction. And the second is really educating and informing the community to be able to help them to help themselves and their children. So Getting through the process from finding a problem to be able to create an impact is not a straightforward process. There's many, many curves in the road. And I just wanted to highlight this, and I think this is true for the work that happens in all the themes. But basically, the clinical model is that we identify a significant problem, and then we need to generate knowledge to be able to solve that problem. So we try and figure out an innovative way to do that that hasn't been published in journals like JAMA or New England Journal. And we do that by the ways you're all very familiar with: collecting data, doing trials. Where the newest element of what we're doing fits in, and what we really need to do well to be able to be successful and make better outcomes, is this area of better care, increased efficiency and reduced cost. And so that's all around this area of knowledge translation and implementation. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the moment. And if we do this right, we improve the lives of kids, but we also need to have people who have this really core set of skills to be able to help us in this area. And I've just highlighted a few of the people in clinical sciences, I won't name them, who have been very active and successful in translating their clinical problems right through to trials into the community to make outcomes better. So I've mentioned to you these two areas, predictive precision medicine and supporting consumer health. And I'm going to start by talking about this, the second of these areas, by really highlighting a few great wins that we've had in the innovation area. Now, I'm only highlighting a couple. There are many, not just in clinical sciences, but in other themes as well. But I think these ones give you a good example of the model that we're trying to use. And that model, as a research institute, starts with evidence. So everything that we're innovating and translating is evidence-based. In the work that we do in clinical sciences, it's also directed at decreasing parent anxiety, which then leads to a reduction in presentations at the hospital and costs for the hospital. So there's those practical outcomes. So I'm going to tell you very quickly about the model for what we've done in concussion, which seems like a fairly trivial kind of medical problem, but in fact it causes a whole lot of stress and anxiety in the community. So we start with the evidence, the research that's been done on our campus and other campuses. We build guidelines, we use standard tools, and we involve our clinicians in their expertise. Then, in terms of building an app, which is what we've done here, we engage a world-class tech team to be able to solve the tech issues. But the key issue in translating and implementing is finding partners who actually like what you're doing and want to use your technology to make a difference. So in this case, the AFL was one of the partners that we worked with. And out of this project, and probably 15 years of traditional research, comes the HeadCheck app, which hopefully some of you have seen, which allows parents and coaches and young people to identify when they've had a concussion, to know what to do acutely, and to know what to do to recover based on evidence-based guidelines. And all this work required a significant multidisciplinary group, as you can see up there, a number of groups coming together to share their knowledge, as well as many of our enablers on campus, which we're extremely lucky to have, including the trials, the innovation team, legal, and Curve Tomorrow. So just a second example, and hopefully some of you will know about Baby Moves, and I'll let you read through the background there as I'm talking. But Baby Moves, again, is a digital health tool developed on the basis of a lot of research and key findings in the area of cerebral palsy, identifying the need for early intervention and early identification of the problems that young kids might have in terms of their development. Now, I don't know that I'm going to be able to play that video, but you can see on the left up there the way the app looks, and then you see the videos that families are taking in their homes of their child and their child's movements, or their infant and their infant's movements. So basically what the app is doing is automatically tracking the infant's movements via the video and using AI to identify the infants with abnormal movements in the comfort of the family's own home. So addressing those issues of access and equity, and reducing unnecessary visits to the hospital, and hopefully reducing the waiting list for the really high-risk kids. And again, a number of different groups have been involved in this work. And then the final one, we're looking at a group with really significant problems with this Lotus Lab app that's been developed by Maria McCarthy and her team in the cancer field. And this is a unique app in that it also uses the evidence that her team has developed to be able to do just the things I've talked to you about. So be able to decrease family stress, decrease attendances at the hospital, but it's also collecting data for research along the way. So I hope from these three examples that I've given you, and in fact there are many more than that I could share, it gives you a bit of a sense of where your research can get to, not just stopping at that journal article or a few talks at conferences in fun places, but really make a difference in the community.